We are here. Hi, Odette. How
Hi.
are you?
Good. How are you, Peter? It's so good to be
I
here
am
with you.
so glad. If everyone actually knew what's been happening here, like for the last few minutes, like computer systems failed and the camera failed, and then we were stuck and frozen in time, and now we are here. I'm so glad that we are here.
Yeah, we pulled
Wow.
a Rodney, right?
I have no idea what Rodney does. Does it happen as well? Does he
They always
freeze?
have computer issues when they try to go live on the Inside Scoop. So
And
there's always a bunch of stuff happening. And so he's always late because he's trying to, he has to fix things every time. So I guess we're pulling a Rodney.
that makes me feel better that if Karen and Rodney, Dr. Becker and Rodney Habib have problems with cameras and systems, then we don't need to
Yeah,
feel bad at all because they've been
yeah.
doing it for so long. And bless their heart, we
Mm-hmm.
love them for
Mm-hmm.
what they do, but I also love what you do. And I would love to actually have you know, a chat about you and your background. And we also have the
The
discussion or
cards.
conversation cards here. Um, I know that we have one thing in common, and that is the fact that we graduated both in a European veterinary school and came to North America.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that he grew up in Switzerland,
Mm-hmm.
and you were trained in one of the Europe's top veterinary schools, and then you ended up in Chicago and calling yourself the Dr. Poop Lady. And
I
so,
know,
how
right?
can you tell me how can you tell me a little bit more about the journey? How did it
Mm-hmm.
actually begin?
Yeah, so there were definitely a few detours. It was not straight. Yeah, so yeah, I went to vet school in Switzerland, and then, at the time I was very interested in working or being a horse, working with horses, basically. That was my goal. I was total fanatic about horses, so that's all I wanted to do. And in Switzerland, there are not that many jobs with horses because it's a small country and the clinics, it was just hard to get a job. And so I ended up getting a job as an intern, like an internship in equine reproduction, which is not really anything I've ever wanted to do, but it just happened to be the only job in the horse field at the time. And so I did that for a year. And one of the people who or veterinarians who did an externship during the time that I was there, he was talking to me about internships and residencies in the United States. And somehow it kind of got into my head and I started researching it, and I applied for an internship in the US because, again, I thought there would be a bigger chance for me to get a job here and learn some more, and so somehow I was taken by the hand by spirit and just dragged over here. It's like I couldn't stop, it's like you're in motion and you're standing next to yourself and you're watching yourself move and you don't know. Yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah. Did you have a similar experience coming to the US yourself? I mean, you seemed like you recognized it.
I went to the Canadian realm. My general, and that's an interesting question. I want to focus on you, but I will answer it. I wanted to go the route of least regret. I too started with horses. I too was completely lost in equine medicine, and I thought I would never do anything else.
Hmm.
And then it happened. I moved to Canada and I worked. I took some time to get through the licensing process. It took me about 3 years
Oh
to
God, yeah.
learn English and right. It's not easy. And then I worked in a mixed practice, and then I ended up with cats and dogs, and then I just ended up with dogs. And so I
Mm-hmm.
knew that if I didn't try to go to Canada, I would regret. So I thought, maybe I should try. There's always a way back, and I don't regret that I've done it, even though I went full circle, and now I spend a lot of time in the Czech Republic, which is my home and my heart home as well. How do you feel about Switzerland at this point?
Well, at one point I had to go back because I didn't have a visa. It ran out, and well, that's another story. I had a job lined up in New York to take over someone's holistic equine practice, basically that was into being integrated into a bigger, conventional practice. And so I applied, obviously, for the job. I got the job, but then the licensing process took forever because New York State Board, Veterinary Board, doesn't meet very often. So took them 2 months just to even start reviewing my application. And so then I lost my visa in the meantime because obviously my visa was dependent on me working. And so I had to go back to Switzerland, and I absolutely hated it. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I had been here for like 15 years, and going back was like me going back into a foreign country. I mean, it was my home country, but I didn't recognize it on some level. I didn't, if I wanted to develop photos, I'm like, where do I do that? If I want to buy a hammer, where do I do that? Everything was just, yeah, I didn't like it. Everything was small and tight. I couldn't wait to get back here.
That's so interesting. It's
Yeah.
I must say that I never expected to love it back in Europe as much as I do now.
Mm,
Mainly because it's so cozy and well organized and not messy
mm,
and safe. But I see benefits and I see positives on both sides. Uh, so, what was the moment when you realized that conventional medicine wasn't enough? Because you're an integrative vet. That's the term we use
mm.
now instead of holistic, because
Yeah,
holistic has
I
been so
still,
overused.
yeah.
But what was the moment you realized something had to change?
That was actually even before I got into vet school. I already felt like there had to be more because I was riding at a barn and the horses were in their little box prison cells, basically. And I'm like, that can't be it. They need to be able to move, they need to be outside. So I started to do a little bit of Linda Tellington Jones stuff on the horse that I was, taking care of and learned some other things. In general, just that was a little bit more natural. And then during vet school, I think it was in the second year of vet school, we had to learn about the anatomy of hooves and such. And then right after we went through that chapter of anatomy, there was a veterinarian from Germany that came to my hometown to teach hoof care, barefoot hoof care. And a friend dragged me there. She said, "You should really come." And I'm like, "Well, we just did that anatomy and I already know about hooves. What new things can I learn?" But I went anyways because, well, it was, in my hometown, so I
Mhm.
figured I may as well go. Oh my God. My mind was completely blown because she basically said, as long as you keep a horse in confinement and not able to basically live the physiology that it's designed to live, like have the lifestyle that it's meant to thrive through, they can't thrive. And I mean, that's what I've seen, like horses that cough, and, have COPD, laminitis, injuries, you name it, they had it. And so learning from her about that and learning about proper hoof care, hoof mechanics, and all of that was just really
Mhm.
kind of blew my mind. And that really was the what really opened up the door. And so then I started to trim horses' hoofs during vet school. It paid for some
Just
of
like
my
that.
rent and such. So yeah, I was the first one in Switzerland who was doing barefoot horse trimming, and I got into big trouble with the regular farriers because they were not a fan of it. I mean, the company that I would get the knives from to do the trimming and the files and everything, they basically told the company that if they were selling to me, they would stop ordering from them. So then the company
Yeah,
basically said, we cannot sell stuff to you anymore. And I'm like,
it
oh
is.
my God. I mean, I must have stuck my foot right into the bee's nest or something. It was really challenging. And at the time I was like 23,
Uh,
24, somewhere around
uh,
that. And,
uh,
you don't have the wisdom and such. So it was tough, to have that
yeah.
sort of put on me, but I also had some support, and certainly from the people who had me come and trim their horses' hooves. They certainly supported me. So that was, I mean, it was fun and difficult at the same time.
it's so crazy that you were describing the farrier situation,
Mm.
and this is still happening in medicine, right? Like
Hmm.
where some people actually lose the focus and lose
Hmm.
what is important, and it's the well-being of the horse, well-being of the dog or cat or any pet. And they kind of like, when you follow the money, it's about the business of the farrier. So then suddenly it becomes political, and it's really wild. And I can see how true you are to what you believe in, and that you're willing and able to detour or change direction when you see that it is actually not right for your patient. And that is actually really admirable. And I just I understand it, because that's how it should be, but it's not always like that. So you know it seems like I'd like to go back to the Dr. Poop Lady, because I find it really funny. I've seen you wearing your poop hat. What do you have it there?
I brought it.
You are, that's the other fun part, that you are so willing to make fun of yourself
Oh,
as
totally.
opposed to making fun
That's,
of
yeah.
others. And that's what I love on you as well. Like I do my best
Mm.
to make fun of me. Like, it's humbling just to be alive.
I
So
know. I mean,
tell me
really.
about tell me about Dr. Poop Lady. Is she the same person as you, or is it an alter ego, or what's going on there?
Oh, I don't think an alter ego. I think it's just it brings more of the playfulness into the forefront that I actually have naturally. So it just brings that out, and it also brings it out in other people because everybody laughs, everybody becomes more joyful and happy, and it. I mean, the way it started was when I would do fecal transplants because people were like, "Ew, gross," and they had some apprehension. So I would go into the back of the practice to get my slurry ready, and then I would come back in the room and I would wear my poop hat, and then people started laughing. And as you know, that stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, so it gets them out of the fight or flight stress and into
Yes.
parasympathetic mode, which is healing. And because our animals are so connected to us, it affects the animals too, obviously. So as much as it was playful, meant to be playful and as a joke and all of that, there was also a therapeutic aspect to it that is important. And the thing is, people see me walk around like that. They don't think about their problems right then and there. They're thinking, "Oh wow, funny." And then I came up with all kinds of other stuff. I found poop pants and, all sorts of toys. And then people send me things too because they know that I like this playful
So
stuff. So
I
they
I would
send me
like
things.
to I would like to know, obviously you gave yourself this really fun name. And I
Well,
know that
that
you do
wasn't me
fecal
actually. It was other
transplants.
people. It was other
Okay,
people
so
who
I
called
thought it was
started
you.
calling me that. No, 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 no. No, I blame it on everybody else. I don't take responsibility for that.
So it sounds like you're doing fecal transplants. I know that they're really useful and can be helpful, and there is tons of research.
Mm.
I know that everyone will be interested, especially those of you who have never done them or have never heard of them. Can you give us a little summary of why you're so passionate about poop?
Yeah. So, ever since I was a child in physics, basically, they taught us the principle of minimal effort for maximum outcome
Results.
benefit results. And so that's probably the only thing that stuck. But in any case, that's what I feel, about fecal transplants because you're basically taking microbes from an entirely from a complete microbiome, basically from a donor dog who's healthy, and you're transplanting that into a unhealthy dog. And so you're basically taking the gazillion microbes that are present in the gut and putting them into another animal. And these microbes we now know are really, first off, they're outnumbering the number of cells that we have by a factor of 10, depending on whether the animal just went to the bathroom or not. And
Mhm.
then it also outnumbers the genetic material of the cells of a multicellular organism like mammals by a factor of 150 at least. And so, who is running the show? You have to ask, right? So it's really the microbes. And so knowing that these microbes also do so many things, they help with the development of the immune system, they help to manage the immune system later on, they help the development of the brain and the nervous system, and then help to manage that. They manage and control stem cells. They, basically they affect every single thing, and without a good microbiome, the body cannot work as well as it should. And the microbes also help with adaptation because we now live in a world that is very different to what it used to be. We've basically created a bit of a mess. And so these microbes, they have the ability of adapting very quickly. So like an E. coli, for example, or any other microbe, you give it antibiotics, they can adapt to that very quickly, for example. So within hours, they can already change their own genetic makeup and their own metabolism to adapt. That obviously is impossible for us, multicellular organisms, like, dogs, cats, humans, horses, etc. And so they help us with the adaptation to what's happening. They're also obviously helping us with cleaning up and all of that sort of thing. So to me, these microbes are like, they're doing the heavy lifting and they're working day in and day out. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen that, you do one fecal transplant and you can take a dog who had chronic diarrhea for 2 years, anxiety, overweight, and skin issues. You can take that, do a fecal transplant. I mean, sure, you have to also adjust some other things, but, the fecal transplant itself, within a day or two, you have a different dog, diarrhea resolved, energy came back, starting to lose weight, that sort of thing. So, what drug can do that? What supplement can do that? What herb? I don't know any
Yeah,
that
yeah.
can.
Well, it's a very, very, very important part of the overall health, right?
Mm.
Microflora. And I apologize for my dog Pax actually barking, and I'll tell you what happened. We'll just kind of have a little intermezzo. The editors can cut it out, but so he normally spends time on the deck, but he was barking because there's someone using a hammer, a neighbor
Hmm.
using a hammer. And so I locked him out, and he can go up in the front of the house, but he's determined. And for the last 15 minutes, he's been barking and trying to go to the other part of the house. And I've never seen a more stubborn dog. He's so lovely, but he's just like he's driving me crazy because we are recording, and he's just Paxi, are you
Well, he's a
naughty?
herding dog, so he's
Oh
like
my goodness.
something's out of order there,
I know
You gotta
exactly.
fix it.
And
Animals.
I'm not sure whether you've ever seen, well, obviously you've seen a dog that is like, kind of ears back in unhappy, not angry, but unhappy kind of way.
Uh-huh.
Something is going on and I don't like it. And you're locking me in the house and I need to look after things. So anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
now I think it's gonna be
you're
okay.
interfering with his job.
Uh, I think I spoiled him as well. Like he doesn't know no for an answer.
Mm.
Um, Anyway, I totally agree with you, and I'm so glad that you've been so passionate about the importance of microbiome and the healthy gut and all that. But I also know I was kind of surprised. I was doing a little bit of research on your background and realized that you have masters in psychology as well. So that's like, yeah, I became a vet and then I'll just do a little bit of psychology. But I think that this is such a
Mm.
unique and such an important
Mm-hmm.
blend because
Yeah.
veterinary medicine is psychology in so many ways, right? Dealing with
Mm.
the emotions and the losses and the fear and all that. Like, how did you
Mm-hmm.
get to psychology?
Well, I had even back in Switzerland, I started to go to someone who was, looking at more of the spiritual. It was kind of, I mean, you could call it therapy. I mean, just somebody to talk to, basically, who was helping me with, life things. I mean, and so it was kind of easy for me to continue that when I was here because in the beginning when I came to the States, I didn't have a license. And, I was stubborn and talking about stubborn. I'm like, I'm not getting my veterinary license. I'm not going through that whole ECFVG program thing that looks like torture.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
already a veterinarian. What do these Americans think, right? Like they're better than veterinarians from Switzerland. So I kind of declined. And so I had to do something else, obviously. And so I ended up studying spiritual psychology because I knew that was, well, it would be one other venue of work that I could see myself do, working with people that way. But obviously, I've been including that into my practice heavily, supporting people because we all, operate from a belief structure through patterns. We have lenses, that we
Mhm.
see the world through, and the animals are mirroring that. And so if I can see what patterns other people may be kind of coming from, I can help them recognize it a little bit better, so that they can then also start to make a bit of a shift. And because I personally have benefited greatly from that, getting to know how I operate and then not be so driven and controlled by my patterns. I mean, we always have patterns and we expand the knowledge of them, but because in the end you have to be able to separate yourself off from that a little bit because they're just patterns or belief systems. They're not who we are, and so I help people to kind of get a little untangled.
What was the most surprising thing you learned about yourself in the process of going through the psychology?
Yeah, I mean, what it definitely taught me is that, we all operate based on what we learn as a child, right? And maybe even past lives, if you even want to go there. I don't know, but in any case, at least as children, our environment, what we experience, our parents, they damage us in some way. And obviously they love us too, but
That is so true.
we kind of get the experiences, and then as we get older we have to then unravel that. And so understanding how I operate and being able to recognize it in others makes me have a lot more compassion for other people, and also recognizing, well, they're just operating from a pattern. It's not really who they are, so I can kind of see past that. And for me, it's certainly a big part is I see the good in everybody. To me, nobody is bad. No animal is bad, no person is bad, is bad. We just are a product of our original environment, but at some point we also have to take responsibility for doing the work, so you cannot just go around and, spew your patterns and belief systems everywhere and your trauma. You also have to take responsibility that you can then make choices. And so the biggest thing I've learned was how can I learn to make better choices in
Hmm.
the moment and get better at it? Because, in the beginning, you don't really know how. It's like a child learning to crow. You kind of run with your pattern, you create the drama, and then you go back and you're like, oh God, what I do, right? And then you get better at recognizing things quickly, and then you can say, oh no, I'm not going there. Let's step out of it again. So, yeah, I guess
It's more like
that's,
observing the pattern, right? Observing
yeah,
the pattern
yeah,
of what's happening.
yeah.
And you still surprised me with the statement nobody is bad, because I actually used to believe that too. But then, people, I don't know, like Putin came on board, right? And maybe that's where it separates, because maybe they were not bad from the start, but life circumstances possibly made them
Yeah.
bad, and they don't have enough awareness to actually become good.
Hmm.
So they just kind of spiral into this
Hmm.
horrible cycle of dysfunction. And I rarely talk politics, but it's a really difficult thing for me to assume that no one is bad at the beginning. Sorry, like from the get go,
Mm.
because maybe is it possible that it can be like a brain misfire, brain disease from the get go?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I
that's
would think
possible
so.
too, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think that, some people, and it goes for animals too, if they had too much trauma, they have to somehow dissociate. And, I mean, that's how you get like the narcissistic personalities and like the Putins of the world, or the criminals that are, very aggressive, I mean, again, I think that on a soul heart level, originally they were good, but they probably then never took responsibility, or never were able to actually look at things to then
Yeah.
turn around. And I do see people who they don't have the capacity to take responsibility to change, or
Mhm.
at some level. So I think there's a lot on that.
I often think of dogs that are angry or fearful or
Mhm.
aggressive. And I think that we need to separate the two things. And I'm curious to see what you think of it. My point of view is separating the functional ability, the function of the brain and the nervous system, and then the repatterning that happens as a result of life experiences and circumstances. So, is it possible that part of these individuals, whether it's humans or dogs or cats or whatever, were born already with the brain dysfunction, and then others are fine, but they are traumatized in life? And is there a difference how we would approach them, or is the first congenital inability to be functional, can it be addressed, or is it almost
Yeah, I mean,
lost?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's certainly people that I've seen where it's like there's no way they're gonna ever change what they do and how they do it. Because the thing is, it takes a lot of courage to do the deep work and really look at our stuff. I wouldn't say it's pleasant. Um, it gets
We
easier.
all know it.
It gets easier over time, because we've been around the block a few times, right? Um, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there is probably some brains that just can't do it.
That's my, yeah. And I'm just thinking of all the pet lovers and pet guardians who have animals who basically they appear not to be, in quotation mark, fixable. Uh they cannot improve. And then I always wonder what the best case scenario is, because some people just don't have the quality of life that they had before they adopted
Oh yeah, yeah, I know.
a
Mm,
dog that is a problematic, right? Like
mm,
I see my neighbor walking her dog, who is dog reactive,
mm,
early morning, but he also lunges at cars, and
mm,
she can't really go to trails and
mm,
beaches, and
mm,
she walks early morning, late evening. She has to turn around
mm.
when there's another dog coming. And I never know how to address it. It's just really difficult. But I thank you for kind of like giving me, a semi like small lesson in psychology and understanding it as well.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to have compassion, because in the end, the only way that we can heal is through love. And I've experienced so much of that in the process of my own healing journey that, if I get showered with love, then my whole body relaxes, and it's like, oh, because usually it's because I think I'm not lovable, and I think that probably a lot of people have that as well. But that dog maybe needs little hormones.
Yeah, maybe. Oh my goodness. I'm glad you pointed that out. For everyone else who's watching, Dr. Suter here is pointing to the elevation of luteinizing hormone after spaying and neutering that can
Mm,
affect the amygdala and other emotional centers
mm,
in the brain, and can cause reactivity. So if you notice that your neutered or spayed dog is reactive to other dogs, HRT or hormone replacement therapy is actually a good way to
mm.
go at least explore. You can go to hormonehealthfordogs.org, which is
Yeah,
the
yeah, you
website
guys.
that pays attention to this topic.
Mm,
Thank you for
yeah,
pointing it out.
yeah, yeah. You did an
Um,
amazing job with that. Again, thank you so much for all the work that you
Oh,
and Karen have
well,
done on that.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Mm,
Like life is interesting because you can never make a decision for yourself where it throws you. And when you see that it's needed or whatever, you become really obsessed or passionate about the issue, then just like you're dropped down there and you have to go that alley, and it's been really fun.
mm,
And mainly because of people like you who understand
mm,
why this is important,
mm.
right? But let's get back to you. I would like to actually ask you a question. What was the hardest thing a conventional vet has ever said to you? And were they right when they said it or not?
Hmm.
You don't need to throw names. It can be anonymous.
The hardest thing, I don't even know. I mean, it's not even on my radar. I'm like, I don't pay too much attention to it, I guess. Or maybe I just haven't had too much contact with conventional vets. I mean, I guess my very first employer that I worked with after vet school, he was, I mean, it was a small animal practice. Again, not enough horses available. But in any case, he was doing acupuncture and homeopathy, but he was so not open to anything, and he barely did any of that. It was and I had looked forward to learning from him about it, but he was so conventional and so, I wouldn't say he wasn't close-minded. He was a good veterinarian, but he just was unwilling to open that box, basically. I think that kind of stuck with me.
Mm.
Yeah.
I find that many veterinarians, I've seen a few, call themselves holistics, and then when you see the treatment protocols and the files of the patients, you see
Mm,
steroids and antibiotics and drugs, and in situations where it kind of could be avoided. And I
mm,
sometimes feel that the word holistic has become
mm,
the right marketing for some veterinarians,
mm,
but when it comes to really looking into it,
mm,
it's still the processed kibble and it's still all that stuff that
mm,
we kind of agreed on, like in the integrative circles, are not ideal because they're not good for people. They're not good for dogs and cats either. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience? Because I've been asking questions, but I also would like to give you the space to share something that we really want to bring out and share.
I guess the way I approach things is, in a simplistic way. I try to make it as simple as possible, but we also need to be a little adventurous, to get what we need and get the help. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in humans, and myself included at times, is, I see something good and then I talk myself out of it, even though it probably would have been a really good thing to do. So just, daring and having a little bit of courage, I think is good to have that in the when it comes to animals. And then, one thing that I'm very passionate about is also hormones, and not just the sex hormones, obviously, but some of the other ones as well. And I find that there's a lot of misconception when it comes to adrenal, when people just hear steroids. I mean, I have had so many clients say, "Oh, I'm willing to try anything except for steroids." And a month later, their animal is on steroids because it needs a little bit to make up for what the body is not making. So I think that's one of the
That is
things
actually that is one of the
that is.
situations, right? When you have Addison's disease, then obviously steroid hormones are needed because the body doesn't produce enough of them. So I agree with you 100%. And I don't want people to misperceive, but I think that what I meant was blocking the body's natural defenses and putting the immune system to sleep when it needs to actually signal that there's a problem, right? And that's a real challenge.
Anyway, so I have
Uh,
some passions in those areas as well, and I don't know if that was really the answer to the question that you had.
that was a free question. Like, what would you like to share?
Yeah,
So
what I'd like
I
to
think that
share.
any answer is right.
Yeah.
And what I really like on you is that you're so genuine and you're so humble and vulnerable. It's it's really rare actually, and I really like that on you. Like since the first time I met you, I've always felt that you're very special and unique, and that you are daring, and that you are not afraid to be different. And this is actually something that that I really appreciate about
Mm,
you.
yeah, well, I mean, it takes one to know one, right?
I don't know.
Well, you have a very have a lightness about you have a lightness about yourself, and you're constantly traveling around and
You know, you
laughing
should
and
see me. You should see me dealing with an insurance company this morning that
oh
I was
well, we
rear-ended
all
about
have.
3 months ago,
Yeah.
and my vehicle is still in repair, and it's just been an absolute nightmare. And yeah, and so you should see me, my lightness and light this morning.
Oh,
I
we
was
all
like,
have our
oh.
moments. Yeah, we all have our moments.
I get really, you know what I don't really like, and I'm really honest. I don't like human dysfunction and disorganization. When you see that things could be done simple,
Mm-hmm.
and then bureaucracy steps in and red tape and all that stuff, and nothing gets done. And I personally have a really weird opinion that it's not the politicians who messed up the world, but it's the bureaucrats actually, and we really have to rein them in, because otherwise the whole world kind of stands still because someone behind a desk
Yeah.
says something. And I actually, that reminds me, have you ever seen Little Britain? It's like a comedy show with two guys playing all sorts of different characters. And one of the episodes, there's this lady. I can't remember her name is Carol. She's sitting at
Oh,
the computer,
sh
and
okay.
someone asks her like a question, and she does like, oh, computer says no. So this is what I imagine all the bureaucrats being like that, right? Computer says no, and then there's this old guy coming to her, like she's a travel agent at that point, and he goes like, I want to get a cruise like first class from May to November for £2,000. She types in, she's computer says yes. So everyone
That's
who
funny.
who is watching and listening, if you really want to laugh, just look up Little Britain. There's all
Yeah,
sorts of
I'll have to
different
find
fun
that.
stuff.
I'll have to find
Have you
that.
seen it,
No,
or have you
I'm
seen
not
it?
familiar with it at
Oh
all.
my
No.
goodness, Carol is just amazing. I think we should show her here if it's legal. Just a little screenshot of Little Britain. I love Carol. She's so mean. And in one of the episodes, there were like three Carols, and they were fighting each other. They were,
Oh, well, of
bitching
course,
at
yeah.
each other. Yeah, and they had the same dress, like exactly the same dress, just different people playing them. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
But going back, you've lectured internationally and you've written books. What do you think you haven't done yet that keeps you up at night? What is the
Well,
next step for
I want to do
Odette
more of the
Suter?
international speaking and sharing because I also want to
Nice.
travel. And I have to have a reason. I'm not someone who just goes somewhere and then just just hangs out. I want to have a little bit of a purpose while I'm there and then also hang out, add a few days of just hanging out and exploring. So that's kind of what that's my dream.
That's so interesting because I think that it's common for us veterinarians to feel like we always have to do something and we have to have a purpose. I think that the hardest thing for me is to sit down and do nothing.
Mm.
I
Oh
at least have to
yeah.
cuddle packs. But it's how do you feel about doing nothing then? Speaking of traveling and purpose and so on.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have a purpose, I wouldn't be here. I mean, I know
Yeah,
that once I'm done doing what I came here to do, I'm gonna be gone. I'm not
I mean
somebody who's
gone like
like,
gardening?
no, no,
Gone.
I'll be dead basically. I will have my soul will have moved on.
You know,
I'm not somebody who's going to retire. I'm gonna
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
be of service in some capacity. You know,
Mhm.
maybe less as I get older. I don't know, but um,
I feel like we came from the same universal batch. I imagine that there's a cluster somewhere, and then it's kind of spits out like a few souls here and there. And I feel like we may be from the same spit out.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't plan to retire either. And I think that I think I will always find something. I never actually felt that I never thought I would be as excited at 62 about my work as I am. And I feel sorry for people who actually need to feel like they have to escape job to retire. But if they have, like, I don't hold it against them. I just feel sad because I think that life can be so much more about making a difference and
Mm,
having a purpose. Like, that's
mm.
why we came here, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's
Yeah.
different. I mean, in vet school, I remember it made a huge impression on me. We had to go to a slaughterhouse, and there was a packaging guy who he was doing the same motion day in and day out. And they asked him if he wanted to switch position and do a little something different. No, he was doing this year in, year out. He was just doing the same
Oh.
thing. And I'm like, I guess that's what was right for him, that's what worked for him. So everybody's is different that way.
Well, different. Yeah, I guess we are different.
Mm,
Yeah, that's right.
mm.
So, are you ready for the
Oh, yes. I've
conversation
been
cards?
waiting. I was gonna ask, when can we do the cards?
But the thing is that they can be really really hard sometimes. So
Yeah, well, we'll
I
we'll
give you an
see.
option to skip,
Yeah.
but I can also see that you're brave human being. I'm gonna shuffle them a little bit. You'll be able to say left or right hand, inner outer, and we'll do few. Let's see where it takes us.
Your
This is my
left.
left.
Your left in the middle.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and now I just have to. I can't really pull a
Yeah, the
card.
the
So
one the one on the left that's kind of on the
inside.
in yeah,
Okay.
that
And
one.
there's two sides, and
Okay.
I usually I empathize with those who have to answer these questions, so I usually volunteer to answer them too.
I can always plead the fifth, right?
uh, See, this is actually, it's almost like the universe knows what we discussed, and we'll just flip. What are your remaining ambitions? Ambitions, that's a strange word for me. Ambitions,
Well, I mean,
remaining
on the
ambitions.
non-veterinary side, I love to dance, so I've been dancing and taking lessons seriously for the last 15 years. So my ambition is to look like I'm actually dancing like a professional and not just like somebody who's just moving around.
What kind of dance? Is it a
Uh,
ballroom dance
yeah,
or
ballroom and Latin. Yeah.
nice?
So that's kind of,
We had how was it in Switzerland? We had ballroom dancing at secondary at high school actually.
oh, really?
Third year of
Mm,
high school when we were about 17.
mm-hmm,
Did you have that in
mm-mm.
Switzerland? I
No,
know that you
no.
guys actually everyone learns how to shoot guns, right? As a protection of the Swiss land. Is it right or not?
Well, I mean, the men who go into the military.
Oh, the men, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a negative thing. I didn't mean it a
No,
negative
no, no, no.
connotation. See that but I have a Swiss friend, and all the kids actually know how to. We used to go to the shooting range, and he was telling me that it's normal for all the kids. So maybe it's not.
Well,
Maybe he was just
I've
making.
never shot a gun, personally.
Okay,
So,
he was just making it up. Maybe justifying his kids
well,
shooting
maybe
guns.
he was into that. I mean, some people have that as a hobby, right? Like
But I
aiming
know
and
that this.
shooting and.
Yeah, I know that the Swiss people basically rose up against the Austrians, right? And that's how Switzerland happened to be originated.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they just kind of tried to fight everybody off. I think when Napoleon went to Russia or wherever he went, he said, well, on his way home, he will take in he will, grab Switzerland. Did not work out.
Didn't happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, so the remaining ambition is dancing. That's really
Hmm.
cool. Um, my remaining ambition, I'm gonna go outside of medicine as well, is actually to relearn to sing because I used to sing as a kid, And then when I became a teenager, I became really
So,
insecure and just stopped singing. But I love to follow all the talented singers on Spotify. And my listening age based on Spotify is 23 because I'm like a really like a teenager, like looking at new songs and oh, this is great. And so I really admire those people who can sing and sing from here. And whenever I sing, it feels like it just kind of contracts and I'm a little embarrassed. And yeah, so
mm-hmm.
anyway, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
I'll be able to sing you a song eventually.
Okay, I'll
Um,
hold you to it. Should we put a date
uh,
on it?
no, no.
Oh, just go do
uh,
it.
just do it. Yeah, Nike knows how to just do it. I don't really know how to
Well, maybe
just
do
do
you,
it.
you take lessons. I used to take singing lessons, and the woman who was teaching, she calls her her teaching or her name of her business is vocal yoga. So she did a lot of training with others to also help to free the voice, breathe properly, and that sort of thing. So she did a lot of work that way. So I was lucky to be able to work with her for a little while.
Mm.
I mean, that was way back when. So I don't consider myself a singer at all, but it was just something I did at the time for
I'll
a
think
while.
about it. I should do
Hmm.
that. So singing in the shower doesn't count.
No, it does. I mean, I think in the end, it's whatever you enjoy, It doesn't really matter, I
But
think.
obviously it would be better if I had formal coaching. I agree with you,
Well, it
100%.
it can help if you feel contracted, maybe it would help to have someone help you with it.
Maybe I need to see a vet psychologist. How about that? About it. Um, well, I don't have any kids, so I'm not sure whether you have any children or not. But this question is about children. So, what would you want to tell your child or any child about the world of work?
The world of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky to have had someone who really taught me some work ethic because, again, way back when I was into horses, the only way I could get riding lessons was to work for it because my parents weren't paying for it. We didn't have the kind of money to do that. And so I worked at a barn where I was really taught how to do hard work and how to be precise about things and how to pay attention and be observant. So that's certainly something that I would want to pass on to a younger person, so that they can develop that as well. And then I guess it's a very generalized question. I mean, it always depends on who you have in front of you. If you have someone who's already working hard, then you may say, you may need to also look at having a little bit of work-life balance. And somebody who's not really working hard, kind of see if you can figure out why they're not working hard, if it's just lacking passion or whatever it is, and then maybe help guide them into a direction where they can feel more fulfilled and find more purpose, type of thing.
It's I like that you take it and you kind of make it better and make the question better actually because it is true that it really depends. It's very subjective. What I would like to say anyone, including a child, just do something that makes you forget about time and you do it, and that's the right job. Because if you're thinking about the end of the day and how you can go home and from work, that's actually the wrong job. And I'm hoping that in the age of AI, the wrong jobs will be kind of like looked after by the AI and robots, and that we'll be able to do something more meaningful. Personally, I love to connect with people, dog lovers, dogs. If I lose the communication channel, it just like I get very unhappy very fast if I don't have connection with others. So that's why I actually love conversing with you.
Yeah, yeah, same
And
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So are
But I
we ready
think,
for another card?
yeah,
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
maybe one more thing to this is
Yeah.
also, as much as obviously we don't want to have to look at the clock, I think the reality is that every job also comes with things that are not the most pleasant to do. I mean, at least as a veterinarian, I know it's like all the paperwork I have to do and that sort of
Oh,
thing. It's not really my favorite. So I guess, it's nothing is always ever completely only positive, I guess is
how
what I
about
would add.
80% or, 80, 70, 80% of that we should
Yeah,
love, right? Like, of
yeah,
course, we have to do accounting and bookkeeping and
yeah,
dealing with, things, right?
yeah.
Life.
I know, right?
Um,
Yeah.
um, do you still live in Chicago, by the way?
Yeah, I still live in the Chicago area. Yeah,
How is the weather these days?
yeah, spring is coming. So that's
Nice.
good. Yay.
Nice.
Yeah.
We had major floods here, so it's been
Mm.
like I've never seen so much water in my life, actually.
Mm.
It's been
You're
just
in
absolutely
Hawaii
amazing.
still?
Yeah, yeah, we've had
Mm.
floods here,
Mm.
and it's been very, very difficult, actually.
Mm. Yeah, I'm
A lot
sure.
of like Maui's, most people imagine that it's paradise, but it's a very obviously volcanic place, but also place of upheavals, ups and downs, right? Like, the whole environment being in the middle of the ocean, like being hammered by storms and rain and winds and everything. It challenges people. And
Mm.
then the tourists usually decide not to come. So the island kind of suffers on
Mm.
many levels, right? And so everyone who's listening, Maui is okay, and please come and support the local people, and it's
Mm.
still lovely. And most of the time, like 98% of the time, it's amazing. So
Mm.
just check your weather and then pray that the bad weather doesn't come. But it can
Mm.
happen anywhere, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So let's
All
shuffle
right.
again.
Yes, let's shuffle. All right, we're gonna go with the left, with the right side, the other left. Yeah, that left. Um, yeah, probably about the fourth card from this side.
From the outside.
Yeah, from the outside.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
Wow.
that sounds like
I
the right
like your
one.
precision.
Well, I gotta make
Um,
it easier for you.
that makes you a very clear empath, actually. Not many people would think like that. But I,
Hmm.
I, I like it a lot. Thank you. I'll try to make it easier for you, but you're pulling the card, so I can't really make it any easier
Yeah.
than you make it. What do you worry about in the middle of the night?
My health, my energy level, and my patience, obviously. Um, you know, because I still work with clients and animals, and so I go to bed, I think about them, I wake up in the middle of the night, I think about them, I try to meditate in the morning, I think about them. It's like, yeah, how can
See
I
the
make it
lives
better?
evolving.
What did I forget to do, or that sort of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, it never leaves you, right? Like it's just part of us. What I worry about in the middle of the night is really strange, but I worry about that's probably the only worry in the middle of the night to make sure that I'll wake up the next morning because as a 22-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
I actually sleepwalked through glass
Oh,
door and
right.
I
Yeah.
almost died by cutting
Mm.
an artery on my leg. Just
Oof.
basically, I had a night terror and I fell through glass and I almost bled out. So, what I do now, PAX is actually trained for my
Mm-hmm.
sleepwalking, so that's one thing. But what I also do is I put the blinds down, so in
Mm-hmm.
case I would decide to run and he would not be able to catch me, that I actually at least end up in the blinds as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the
Mm-hmm.
glass. And so that's kind of a weird one, I know, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a silver lining to this because PAX is certified officially and he can fly and travel with me anywhere. So he's lucky and I'm
Mm-hmm.
lucky too.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I actually almost died at that point. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily. it's a life story. It's appreciation of life. And also realize when I was sitting there in a pool of blood, I was it was like a curtain drawing over my eyes, and dying wouldn't have been that bad then. So I often think about what part of dying is bad and how what would be the easier way to die. Actually, bleeding out by after walking through glass door probably wouldn't be the worst case scenario. But I'm being a little.
Yeah, I think
I'm being.
drowning or fire, burning in a fire alive. I think that to me sounds worse.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Because
yeah.
bleeding out, I mean, I think you just end up losing consciousness and I don't know. But I mean, I plan on just falling asleep in I mean, dying in my sleep. That's my plan.
My grandpa went like that. Unfortunately, I found him in the morning.
Hmm.
It was difficult, but
Yeah,
yeah, he was
I'm
amazing.
sure.
Um, the second side of the card, which of your friends do you envy the most? That's kind of a weird question. I was just
Yeah,
kind of like,
a year ago I would have probably had a name or something, but now I'm actually working on not falling into the trap of envying someone else because it's really just a trap that causes a lot of pain. Um,
Mhm,
because
mhm,
that it means that for one, you're not good enough. You have to have what other people have, and that means you're not really listening to what you need and what's right for you because everybody has what's right for them. And so every time I feel myself getting into that, I have like a knee-jerk reaction. And basically I train myself to become more aware, and so I'm spending much less time in that. So
You seem to have a very strong sense of kind of internal monitoring and awareness,
oh
which I
yes.
really like. Like I can see that
Maybe too much.
you're being a human, but you also reflect on everything that
Hmm.
happens
Hmm.
in your head, which is really
Hmm.
beautiful, and I think that it means a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I actually do have an answer that is slightly different, actually quite
Hmm.
different. The only thing I envy ever, and I catch myself often, is to see young people in their 20s because or when they have
Hmm.
their whole life ahead of them. And I thought I so would love to be in their place because imagine with the experience and everything that we have now, we would actually start living again. Like, oh my goodness. Like, so I'm hoping that we'll kind of survive the next 5 years while AI is figuring out how to make us live forever, and then we'll live forever.
Yeah, right,
We'll
right.
be the wiser ones,
Hmm.
older ones, more wrinkly ones, but
Yeah.
I still would love that to be solved. So, I envy the 20-year-olds for being young actually, because I
Hmm.
I would love to be 20
Hmm.
again. How about you? Would like to be 20 again?
No, no, not no, absolutely not. No, I would not want to go back even one day.
Oh wow.
Just because every day I'm moving forward and I'm better in some way. I've learned something new, I've grown, so I do not absolutely I don't want to go back. I always say that if I have to come again, if I have to be
Mhm.
reborn and come to this planet again, I want to come with all the knowledge, the skills, everything that I have now, and then I will agree to come again. But if I have to let go of all this, I am not coming again because
Well,
I'm
that
not
is
learning
actually
it again.
that is a good point because what I thought was like I'd like to be 20 with the wisdom of
Yeah,
62.
yeah,
So we kind of agree again,
yeah,
even though we have a different kind of
yeah,
different
yeah.
take on it. We have two options. We can do one more card, or we can wrap it up depending on how much time you have.
I have
And we
plenty of
can.
time.
Okay, cool. That means another card.
But that's interesting. I think that playing cards like that is really cool because then you actually discover things about other people that you wouldn't otherwise, and you get into different conversations, except, instead of just talking about the weather.
Or veterinary medicine, which we do all the time,
I
right?
know,
Like we always
exactly.
talk about veterinary medicine, and
I
I
know.
find it really enlightening
Hmm.
and humbling
Hmm.
and super fun to
Yeah.
actually have these conversations. So
Yeah.
thanks everyone who's coming here. Don't forget to subscribe to Dr. Suter's newsletter. What is your website,
It's just my first and
Odette?
last name, OdetteSuterDVM.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
And mine is drpeterdobias.com. So don't forget to subscribe to our newsletters
Hmm.
because we share a lot of information that you will not find anywhere else, including this chat. Okay. So,
I'm going back to the left.
mhm.
And let's do the second card from this inside. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said second because I was thinking she's gonna say 15th card from the right.
The 99th card from the left.
Yeah, there's no such thing. Oh my goodness, you pulled it. I have to be honest. Like I sometimes go like, oh, this card, like like yeah. But I never change them. How has your family damaged you?
Let's just say that the lessons that I've received were that in order to be taken care of and loved, I have to take care of them. That's kind of been part of what I've um, been dealing with and have been working through for, years now. Is just, getting out of the whole I have to do things, I have to please somebody to be loved, and I can't just be myself, sort of thing. And then, obviously being in the service industry as a veterinarian, it's very easy to get into that and doing more than you should, not have any boundaries, that sort of thing. So for me, it was all about learning that, having more boundaries and not let people walk all over me type of thing and such. And then um, abandonment has been a big deal as well. When I was 2 years old, my parents put me in a children's home for a couple of weeks so that I could go on vacation. They probably needed a break. My sister went to my grandma, but it was too much for her to take us both. And so they put me in like a children's home where I knew nobody, and I mean, I don't have conscious memory of it, but I can, they told me about it and I can just feel that I was not happy. Let's put it that way. And then, eventually my mom died, so that was more abandonment, basically. So that took me years to get over, to finally find some acceptance and get out of the whole anger um thing. So
Sorry to
yeah.
hear.
Yeah, it was, it was what I had to go through, to help. I mean, it's what made me stronger, and so it's, damn, that's why I'm cringing a little bit with the damage part because, you know, as childhood is about make creating wounds that we can then look at later and grow from and
It's good to
expand.
see that way.
But it's not always. I mean, it's not always easy, obviously.
Yeah, I really like your honesty. And once again, I have to come back to the statement we come from the same universal cluster, or at least from the same
Mm,
European background, because
mm,
my parents, when I was little, decided that it would be good to tell me that if I don't behave, that I'll go to an orphanage. And there was
mm.
this, there was
Oh
this
yeah.
orphanage in the mountains about 8 miles away from our town. And imagine like foggy mountains with a stone big building,
Yeah.
like from a horror movie. And
Mm,
would you believe that actually, because our family friend worked in the orphanage, they actually took me there. So
oh.
we have the same kind of
Mm,
thing going on. But I do believe that that these kind of childhood situations make us more empathetic, make us
mm,
better human beings, and as you said, they prepare us for life. Because if people have life that is easy and very sheltered and mollycoddled early on, they just become assholes. Actually, often, pardon my language, but I've seen that.
mm.
The people who
Entitled.
just
Yeah.
entitled and a wind blows from the east instead of west, and they kind of are filing a complaint to the planet Earth or something. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's bizarre. So yeah,
Hmm.
I empathize and I have a lot of
Mm.
understanding of that
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
our
in the end
parents.
we all have, we all have wounds that were inflicted,
Yeah,
at in
yeah.
some ways.
And it's
So,
more like learning to live with them as opposed to just trying to push them away, right?
mm,
Like I think that some of it, like it can be neutralized, it can be forgiven, but it can never be totally like the scar can never be a
mm,
complete whole skin again, right? Like,
mm,
I have a scar from running through the glass door and I know that it will never disappear.
mm,
How important
mm.
is it still to impress your parents? Well, that's the second side of the
Yeah, of
card.
course, it's the flip side. Um, how important? Well, I mean, I only have my dad now, so it's different. We have a really good relationship, very easy, very loving relationship. So I don't know that I really have a big need to impress him anymore, but certainly when it comes to health things and such, it's like he doesn't really see how much I have to contribute. So I don't know how much he really knows me,
Um,
on some level.
um,
Well, I mean,
um,
he lives in
um,
Switzerland, so it's not like I see him all the time. So it's not like he's really a big part of my daily life where he could see what it is that I physically, you know, do. So, yeah.
um,
How about you? Are your parents around still?
My parents died 2003 and 2023.
Mm,
My dad died of prostate cancer. My mom died of old age dementia slash old age. I don't try to impress them anymore, but I had a phase when I did, especially my father, because when I decided to go to vet school, I kind of went to vet school against his will.
mm.
He was a veterinarian,
Oh.
and he kind of like damaged us all because he told my brother, who was not academically strong, that he would be a good veterinarian and he could never get to vet school. He told me that I should go to architecture because I would be a good architect, but I wanted to go to vet school. So he basically suggested that I would not be a good vet. And that probably made me become even better vet.
Mm,
But he also, in 1968, when the Russians came to Czechoslovakia, he wanted to take us and move to Canada. And somehow our grandmother convinced us not to go. And he always regretted that. So just because I had a complicated, challenging relationship with him, for some time, I tried to live his life basically in front of him because
mm,
he was not exactly the most loving father in many
mm,
ways. And so there was a period when I just wanted to say, "Hey, I'll show you your
mm,
life,"
mm,
because he told me I can't do that. I can, and I can do it
mm,
even better.
mm,
And so that was not necessarily the most functional way to exist, and I'm not that way anymore. I have a
mm,
lot of empathy towards
mm,
someone who lost his life to Russian occupation and communist regime and all that stuff. And,
mm,
so not an easy life.
mm.
I'm grateful that I think that everything has its purpose. I don't regret anything.
Yeah, no, I don't live with regret either, thankfully. That's good. I'm happy that you're
That's good. That's
that way
good.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope we're going to see each other somewhere sometimes in the future.
Hmm.
And,
I hope so too.
and,
Because we've never met in
I,
person.
no, no, no. And I think it'd be so much fun. So
Yeah.
if you come to Prague or anywhere I happen
Hmm.
to be, just let me know. Or maybe at a conference, you never
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, Maui.
Um, Maui, Maui, yeah, Maui. Mudslides and flash flats and yeah, all that. Hopefully
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be gone soon.
Uh-huh.
Um, Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here. Thank you for opening yourself up to me and everyone, our community. For those of you, again, if you want to check Dr. Suter's website at Dr. Odette Suter, Suter, dvm.com. And if you want to check my website, it's drpeterdobis.com. It's got to be here somewhere. I can't even spell anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
thank you
Well,
so much. And
thank you for having me. It was so much fun, and thank you for, this conversation. I loved it. So, and thanks for everyone listening.
pleasure is on my side. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah,
Sending you a big hug.
to you as well.
Bye bye.
All right, bye-bye.